Welcome to Mark My Words, a show that searches for the fork in the road in life, the place where the turning point in the journey of entrepreneurship and life can be found. Let's meet each other at the crossroads on Mark My Words. Alright guys, I've been podcasting now for 5 years and I did a lot of, I don't know if I want to call it like a midlife crisis or anything, but it was definitely a transitional period in my life back in like 2019, 2020, and even a few years back before that. I was looking for more fulfillment and really wasn't thinking much about, just working for myself. My focus was working myself up the ladder. Obviously, even though I still work in corporate America, my attitude has changed quite a bit. And when I was prepping for this episode today, Gretchen Schoser, which I hope I still am saying your last name right, Schoser, Schoser. I had it right the first time. So, when I was prepping for this episode, Gretchen is very much an inspiration. She has a really inspiring story of mental health, but she also has a very inspiring story of entrepreneurship. She started her journey in her 60s, and not only that, not only does she have her own business as a talent and wellness professional, but she also is the co-host of the Survivors podcast and shit SH exclamation point T that goes on in our heads. And I couldn't be more thrilled to have Gretchen Schoser on my podcast. Gretchen, how you doing today?
I am so awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for having me. It is truly an honor.
I appreciate your passion for being on Mark My Words. So thank you so much, and thank you for being here. And as a lot of people know, I always jump into the episode just kind of going back in the Wayback Machine. And, I go on the LinkedIn, I try my best to decipher some things. And I know I can see that you started at some point a few years back studying like IT and stuff like that. Was that always something that interested you? Was there anything else that you did or wanted to do in your earlier days?
I've always been a tech nerd. I love tech. I'm gonna credit my dad. My dad worked for Honeywell and AT&T, and we when we were growing up, we had one of those the first like super clunky like Atari computers, and I just loved tinkering around with them and like writing little DOS programs and I decided that that's really what I wanted to do. That and I really like talking to people, so I always made sure it was sort of some sort of customer service, customer focus. I'm an extrovert, I like to talk to people. I'm not your typical programmer where I'm like squirreled away in an office not looking at people all day. I am that person that's up in the office talking to everybody, maybe some days a little disruptive, but it is what it is. And that's kind of how I got into it. And later in life, I decided to go ahead and get my master's, my BA and then my master's, and kind of just progressed with my career. And I, like I said, I love what I do. I play with new toys every day now too. So
That's amazing. I mean, it sounds kind of similar to my path in that I can remember from a very, very early age playing Atari games, and I had the 2600. I believe I know you had something, I believe that was a little more higher end than a 2600. You probably had something that was like could process and do more, correct?
Well, I don't think so because, I was the oldest of four. So, I'm sure that my dad like got us like mid-range, but we were all fighting over it. You know, like I want to play. No, I want to play. No, I want to play. But the one game that I always like think about is remember back in the day where there was that little football game and it was like this big and like you had the little green buttons. I can remember us like fighting over that game and like trying to figure out like who could win. And I saw one the other day and I almost got it. It brought back some fun memories.
Yeah, there's some tech and some games from when I was growing up that I know I probably will not really touch, but just having that nostalgia would be like so meaningful. I usually wind up not doing it, so I commend you for even like thinking about it, because as we get older, it's like, oh man, this stuff is just going away more and more and more.
It is like, you know what? I'd like to bring back my childhood. That was a fun childhood memory. So like on the bad days when I'm having a bad day, I'll think about the stuff that was like really cool when I was a kid.
Yeah. No, and I feel like it's like a daily occurrence in my life, really. So as you can see, I got the vinyl collection behind me, and that kind of stuff is never too far from my mind. And as I do this show and talk to more people like you, I always love talking about, just what you were talking about, tinkering around with stuff. I used to like take black and white TVs apart. My dad would get me one for Christmas. I think even first grade he got me one. It's like, I don't know, probably $50 or whatever. Like maybe expensive back then. I don't know if that was like that was a long time ago, but maybe it wasn't that expensive. I don't know. But yeah, I would just tinker around. I love doing that kind of stuff, and that's kind of how I wound up in the career path that I wound up in. And yeah, so here we are, and here you are, and you at some point in time decided to take your talents and become an entrepreneur. And I'd love to hear because I know even at, getting into my 40s, some might argue, I mean, some might say that's a real prime time to dip into the entrepreneurial world. It's not something I ever personally was like, I really want to be an entrepreneur someday. It was just something that kind of happened organically. So I'd love to hear how you got to the point where you said, you know what, I want to put my voice out there with not only one show, but two shows, and I want to start a business.
So I have to start the story from the beginning because that's how we get to the entrepreneurial start. If you're okay with that.
We love long stories on Mark My Words, but I'm here to interject if you want or need me to. We're not going to just sit here for 50 minutes and listen. I'm here to have a conversation. Just
It's
want
all
to put that out there.
it's all good. Like, and it's a good story, and like I can reel this whole thing off in about 15 minutes. But so for anyone that knows me, I am a true extrovert and a true empath. If you don't know what an empath is we take on everybody else's crap and don't deal with our own. And so the last quarter of 2022 was a really, really, really hard quarter for me. I I was taking an early retirement from work. My wife got shingles. She was down for 8 weeks. I hit and killed a deer.
Oh gosh.
I got catfished, and the FBI had to get involved.
Oh
I
my
lost
God.
a really close friend. My father-in-law passed away 2 days before Thanksgiving, And then you throw in a little bit of seasonal depression and some holiday depression, right? So all that going on in my head, and everybody thinks that I'm doing just fine because as an extrovert, I masked my depression very well. Number one, I didn't realize what was going on because I don't know, as I was growing up, we've been taught you shove that all the way down until it has absolutely no place to go. So, here comes Christmas Day, and I live in upstate New York. And that Christmas, it was super, super cold here. It was minus 22 outside. But I wanted to get out of the house. I just wanted to kind of get out of my head, get in my car, listen to some music. When I go out to the car doesn't start. Why doesn't it start? Because it's minus 22. So I come back in the house and I'm super like, I'm just done, right? Because I wasn't dealing with all the stuff that was going on inside me because I didn't understand it. So I marched upstairs. I don't even think my wife knew I'd gone upstairs. And I had a bottle of pills on my nightstand. And I was ready. I was ready to just be done because I didn't know, I was tired of feeling the way that I felt. But as I'm reaching for that bottle of pills, I'm thinking to myself of everybody that's going to miss me. And like, I had this glimmer that something was going to get better. I didn't know what it was, but that glimmer of hope that something might change. So I picked up the phone. I called 988, which here in the United States is the crisis and suicide hotline. The lady on that other end of the phone was the most compassionate person I've ever spoken to in my life. She literally talked me off the ledge. And she helped give me voice to what was going on inside me. I didn't realize I was depressed because I'd never had that feeling before. And it was just compounded by everything else that was going on. So the next day, after I talked to my wife and everything, I opened up to social media and I was like, listen, guys, this is what's going on. And the reason I did that is because I didn't want anybody else to feel as terrified and alone in their own journey as I felt in my own. So I put the post out there, and then all of a sudden I'm getting like all these PMs, like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I got like 200 of them, people thanking me for opening up. Um, because now that I opened up, they didn't feel so terrified and alone in their own journey. And so that was one of my healers. And then my second healer was my co host. So at the time, my co host, and I use this term super loosely, she was my manager because I retired in April. So we would call each other every single day and laugh. And we would laugh about stuff you should never, ever, ever, ever laugh about. But what it did is it changed the trajectory of that day, right? Because when you laugh, your cortisol, gets broken up and your serotonins are up and your endorphins are up. So it's during that one of those conversations, she's like, "Hey, we should do a podcast." And I was like, "Okay, sure, why not?" So we that was on January 14th. On February 14th, we released our first episode of the podcast. And we did that in honor of my mom. I had buried my mom in 1997 on Valentine's Day, so I hated that day. But I wanted to change that day. So we started doing the podcast, and we're like, oh, we're just going to do this for 3 months. We'll be done. Okay. Joke was on us because now people have started listening. And, come March, we had like 5,000 downloads. I'm like, who is listening to us? We are not clinical by any means. Then, here comes April. We had 10,000 downloads. I'm like, who's listening to us? Like, what's going on? But then at that time, I was retired and I was like, well, I kind of need something to do because I was getting bored. That's the problem with people that like me that like to tinker around with things. I'm like, oh, I need to work. So I got a part-time job at a consulting firm. And it was originally going to be like a full-time gig. But once they found out I had a podcast and it was a pretty successful podcast, they're like, hey, why are you working full time? And I'm like, well, mama needs insurance. And so they offered me 30 hours a week with full benefits. And I got to continue on with the podcast. And that went all well and good up until November of 2024. So the small company I worked for got acquired by Ernest and Young. And listen, like when I retired, I had already told myself I would never work for a big company again, ever. And I started getting depressed again. But this time, when I got depressed, everybody knew where I stood because you can only hide resting bitch face for so long before somebody tells you to fix your face. Well, I can't fix my face because this is the way I feel. So in December of 2024, my wife and I were in New York City celebrating the holidays, and she knew how much I just didn't want to do my job, and she gave me permission to quit. Well, like I said, all well and good, but I got to work because number one, I like my bougie toys, and number two, I like if I'm not working, I'm going to go crazy. So she gives me permission to quit, and we're sitting in the airplane coming home towards the end of December. I forgot how long it takes to de-ice a plane. Thankfully, it takes 2 hours. But here's where the cool thing comes in. I'm sitting on the plane. I had my resume, I had my phone, and I had ChatGPT. So I uploaded my resume to ChatGPT. I said, hey, based on my 45 years in corporate America and everything we've done with the podcast, create an independent consulting firm. In about 2 minutes, it came back with everything I wanted to do. It came back with some stuff I really didn't want to do, so I trimmed that way down. And during that time, we had been also approached by a couple of big sponsors for the podcast. And if you work for any of the big 4 or 5 consulting firms, you know that they have these like independence clauses where you can't do business with certain customers if they've done audits. Well, for me, that was the case. Two of the people that came to us for sponsorship deals for our podcast fell under the independence clause. And I was like, wow, this is perfect timing, right? So now I got permission from my wife to quit. I got incentive to quit. So I went back to work on January 2nd. I turned in my resignation. People were like, what? What? Like, okay, listen, do you not read the room? Read the room. Like, I'm not happy.
Yeah,
And that same day, I opened up my LLC and I officially launched my company on January 22nd of this year.
amazing.
And
What
I did it because I was tired of corporate America.
What a story. I mean, I've had all kinds of people on this show. Some of them are just basically born geniuses who come up with really great ideas early in life and they don't go through the corporate thing like you and I have for a good part of our lives. And some people, it's so amazing hearing all the different sides of this. And then in my mind, like, I know that obviously when I got into podcasting and really got interested in entrepreneurship, I mean, I was mainly looking for more fulfillment in my life and in my career, but also kind of realized that I wanted to live my life more for me and just, I mean, hey, I still have a regular day job and it has a tremendous amount of flexibility and I'm very grateful and lucky to have that. And I will say that me being the eager beaver and ambitious like I am, if they offered me like a promotion or whatever tomorrow, I would definitely consider it. But I can relate to your message at this point that, you get to a point where it's like, I want to, and I know that a lot of what you're doing is a big reflection of you, just beyond like, certain messaging, this is you. And I feel like a lot of that is my message and my purpose as well. And that's important to me. And so much so that, I mean, I'm still working hard at it 5, 6 years later, and it's amazing. I mean, what a story. And I don't mean to keep rambling on here, but resilience is something, whenever I see that word, and I saw it with like your profiles and stuff, and that's a big word for me. I feel like my whole life has been about being resilient. What does being resilient mean to you, and what role does it play in your life and your work and your message?
So resilience is a big thing for me. I like everything started from a really dark place. And I knew that I needed to keep showing up, not only for myself, but for other people. I have a ton of friends. I have a ton of followers. And it's, to me, resilience is keep putting one foot in front of another. Like, not everything works out the way that you want it to. And, I'm going to say being a business owner is a little weird. Okay. Like, for the first time in 45 years, I don't have health insurance. Um, Number one, I can't justify the cost. So, but if for anybody that's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, and if that's a worry for you, one thing you can do is just start stocking some money away right now. So for me, like, I have a HSA, so I have $8,000 on my HSA. I can probably afford insurance next year because they base everything off of last year's earnings. Well, last year I made a shit ton of money. This year, I'm not going to make as much money. So it'll be easier for me to get insurance. But I'm also being super duper careful, right? Because in a couple of months, I'm going to be 62. So if it's icy outside, we don't go outside. If it looks like it's going to be something dangerous, I don't do that now. But when I had insurance, I was like, oh, you know what? Insurance will pay for this. Well, now when I don't have that, like that safety cushion, I have to kind of rethink what I'm going to do. But resilience really is all about believing in yourself too, and believing that the universe will provide like the things that you need to keep you going. And I'm fortunate. I'm very, very, very thankful to be alive because so many amazing things came out of that really crappy time in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I know whenever I have a guest that I have the opportunity to talk about mental health, that is a big opportunity. Not so much that it's like something that a lot of people talk about, or, not so much worried about being popular. I'm more concerned with like that's a topic that I think needs to be talked about, because not only is it important with entrepreneurs, because it's a heavy load to carry when you're, you know, being your own boss, but I think it's important for everybody to kind of take a step back and take care of their own mental health, because I personally, having the life that I've had, born with a very rare syndrome, and including the cleft lip and palate. I always call it a package deal that I was born with. And it has brought a lot of interesting challenges to my life, and, both socially and with mental health. So anytime that I hear a story like yours or so many others, and we are in Mental Health Awareness Month here in May. This episode will probably go out a few weeks after that, which is unfortunate.
But
But
that it's okay because we're still talking about it.
yeah.
And part of what I do with my company, I have two sides to my company. One side is highly technical, and the other side is all about mental wellness, and it's about working with companies that are going through change. Because one thing companies forget to remember is, what about their employees' mental health, right? They'll just go in and do the change, but they won't consult the employees. And then they wonder, like, what's happening to the bottom line? Why is retention low? Why is morale low? So that's what I do on the other side of my business. And I create tools using ChatGPT, and getting ready to put a bunch of stuff out on my website. And so that's one of the cool things about being an entrepreneur, right? I don't answer to anybody but myself. And so if I want to sit around and fart around with ChatGPT all night long, I can do that. And I've created some really fun, cool tools that I can put out onto my website and, eventually package up and sell. Um, but, I'm also going to be 62. And for me, that's what draws everybody is that, here I should be thinking about retirement. But I'm the type of person that needs to work. Like, I need to keep my mind busy because an idle mind in me is not a good me. And like, I go down rabbit holes. And as long as I'm working and creating and, turning all that horrible pain into purpose, for me, that's a win-win.
Well, you're touching on a good point as far as mental health, and I'm about to share kind of something I've never shared. I don't know who's actually watching on TikTok right now because I'm focused on you, but I've opened up quite a bit on TikTok about myself, and let me tell you, so starting the podcast and getting more involved in that community and entrepreneurship has been very good for me mentally. I tend to have a lot of downtime, and as much as I love downtime and playing video games and stuff like that, there's still been like a big gap of time where, like, outside of my marriage, like, I don't tend to talk to a whole lot of people outside of that, frankly. So it, I've learned a lot about myself over the years because I'm very much like, I'm like an introvert extrovert. I'm like a combination of those. And I do think that even though I do like to be myself and do my own thing, because I'm kind of like used to that, I need people too. And when I started my TikTok journey, so I started that to just try to promote my podcast more, which I'm kind of doing right now. But I had a whole other account dedicated to it, and it went terribly. Like, it did not go well at all. I'm like, oh, check out this clip from this episode. Nobody was watching it. So I started just doing TikTok the way that most people tend to do it and use it. And I started to really figure it out and started to meet a lot of people, like really, really fantastic people. And what I've been learning from going to other people's like lives and stuff like that is that this is something that is fulfilling like a hole that I don't even know if I had or not. Just the connection that I'm making with so many awesome, like-minded people. And it's made a big difference with my mental health just between those two things. Because if I'm not podcasting or on TikTok or whatever, then I'm probably pretty like down in the dumps, frankly.
And I mean, and that's the other reason we do the podcast. So, we're 117 episodes in, something like that. But we get to talk to some really cool, interesting people. And, one of the cool things with the podcast is that, it's truly about normalizing how we talk about mental health. For us, it was never about monetization. That came in on its own, which was a whole nother crazy story. But we, every time somebody shares their story, we unlock somebody else's prison. And we all know that, like right now, the entire world is on fire, literally on fire. And so we kind of use it as our free therapy. I mean, we both still go to therapy. My co-host is in Georgia and I'm in upstate New York, but we we've just met some really interesting people. And it's like normal folks. Like we haven't had any celebrities, we haven't had any like super famous people, but they don't have to be famous to have mental health issues. Okay, we all have mental messiness. But I will tell you what's been kind of crazy is I post a lot out onto LinkedIn, and I've had a lot of people like reach back out to us and be like, "Hey, these are really great messages." And well, okay, yes, it is, because you need to be a better employer and think about how you're taking care of your employees' mental health. It's a big topic right now because not only do people have their normal everyday, work stuff going on, but there's a lot coming at them from the outside. Like it, it's crazy town right now. And I just want employers to realize that there's tools and resources out there that they can use and things that they can supply to their employees that would make things so much easier. I mean, think about your job. You probably have an electronic job board. Wouldn't it be nice to have like the EAP resources out there or maybe even the crisis line number? Because think of how many people are sitting at their desk right now, like just saying to themselves, I'm done. I'm physically and mentally done.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they're thinking like, God, I need to feed my family. I need to put gas in my car. How do I manage this? And so that's what the wellness side of my business does and what our podcast does. And the other crazy thing is like I didn't have enough to do. So I also co-host another podcast called the Survivors Podcast, and it is truly all about suicide awareness. Um, the numbers have gone up tremendously since the 20th of January for 2025, and we just want to put awareness out there that there are resources. There's tons of resources now.
It's much needed. I mean, I feel like we can't have enough of that type of awareness. And I mean, again, I'm somebody who I've learned over the years to internalize a lot of things just because of the way I was raised, and I guess just because of the road I traveled, maybe the era that I grew up in. A lot of combination of factors there, also just not always having like somebody that I could just, a friend or whatever, to, phone a friend, as they say. And I've had to internalize and deal with a lot. So I can understand the need and, just that feeling that you can have where you're just like, I just don't know what to do. And, it's very important to have people like you out there really speaking and trying to help, uh, people to deal and to not feel alone. So for me, I feel like that's something that we definitely need more of. And it was a big reason why I wanted to have you on this show, just because I know, firsthand that I certainly have had my battles, as, oh, a lot of us, especially living in this era, we've all had some kind of battle with mental health, but I've definitely had some moments in my life where I was just like, oh my gosh. So I appreciate you.
And I appreciate like how open you are because, one of the things that we're really trying to touch on is like men's mental health, and even people my age, right? We were all raised in an era where you don't talk about mental health. Well, now that trajectory is changing where we are talking about it, where we are taking away some of that stigma. And you know what? It's okay to have a mental illness. It doesn't make you any less of a person. Um, it makes you battle strong though. And, for me, I used to internalize everything. Now I don't do that anymore. One of the other things that's been super healing for me is I write. So I'm actually writing a book about my whole journey from like October of 2022 up through now. And I was almost done. And then I quit my job. And I was like, you know what? I want to have that information in the book because I want people to see me as a story of hope. But I will tell you, I had to work really, really, really hard for the last 2 years to get myself out of that hole and to feel mental. I guess it's mentally sound enough to open my own business. I mean, it was a scary proposition, right? I went from making a buttload of money to not making a whole lot of money right now. But for me, it's not really about the money. It's about doing the things that make me happy. Like I taught myself how to use ChatGPT. I'm like a whiz at it now. Now, like people come to me and they're like, "Hey, how did you do that?" Like stuff I do with my show notes, and we do flip books, and we reuse our transcripts all the time. But then I also think about like content that came in from the podcast that I could actually use on the wellness side of my business, and I also incorporate it into like the tech side of my business. So on my tech side, I work with UKG recruiting and onboarding customers, and I can do implementations and uh, training and system reviews. I've done that for 16 years. I know those programs like the back of my hand, and I, I get that puts me in my happy place. Like I've never been this happy. My wife said it's the happiest she's seen me in 20 years because I'm doing this for me and I'm not doing it for anybody else. And if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, like make yourself a list of what are the pros to doing this, what are the cons. You probably come up with a whole lot of cons, but really look hard at that, like at the pros. Like what kind of joy are you going to get out of it? Like I'm telling you, I get out of bed in the morning, I'm like excited to come down to my office. I'm like, hey, what are we going to work on today? And that's really important because if you're waking up every day and you're dreading going to your job, that is the absolute worst feeling in the world. I did that for 2 months. Like once we got picked up by Ernest and Young, I was like, I am not compromising ever again. I compromised my entire life to make everybody else happy. I wasn't compromising this time. I was going to do something that really brought me a lot of joy, and I love it. Like who gets to say they love their job every day? And I still get to talk to people, right? Because once we lived in South Florida for 30 years and then we moved to upstate New York in a really small farming community. But once I did that, I wanted to be able to, still talk to my friends. And so every week I have standing meetings with at least two or three friends. And we just meet over Zoom. And that's how I get my people time in because, as being an extrovert, like I need to have that touch and feel. Well, COVID robbed a lot of that from me. I swear they sent me to prison for like 18 months. But that this is how I get my interaction is over Zoom calls. And um, I think that's the other cool part of the job is, I can still make people laugh. I can still smile. I can't hug you physically, but, you just think about it hard enough and, my little T-Rex arms, wrapped around your waist. But I do this for me and I do it so that people realize it's never too late to start over again. Never.
And that is another reason why I love having you on this show is that you're doing things and learning about things that I think when you get to a certain age, and I say you as just a general you, not you personally, but you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to learn about chat GPT. I don't want to use this social media app or that app or whatever because it's no longer familiar. You're there's a separation there, I think, for some people where they think, oh, this has passed me by, or I just don't know. How do you help people to see things the way you see them? Because you're so like excited about Chat GPT. You're, at least from what I'm hearing, you're not like intimidated by new technology at all. Like, how do you help people to get jazzed about new technology and using it and implementing it?
So funny you ask. I had a call earlier today with somebody who is also a podcaster, and they wanted to do like different things with their show notes. And I opened up ChatGPT, I uploaded one of my transcripts, and I'm like, hey, now watch this. And I gave it a few prompts, and it generated like these beautiful show notes. And like, my God, that would have taken me 20 minutes to do. And I'm like, dude, it was done in like 2 seconds. And, you know, I, I tell them that, like, if they want to use all the cool features, at least buy the paid version of whatever ChatGPT you're going to use, right? Because like with OpenAI, they have all the other GPTs out there that you can mess around with. And with the paid subscription, you don't get timed out. So I get them excited by showing them what it can do, like generating SEO keywords, shows you some ranking, can create a funny picture. But I also use it a lot for research, like for like mental health trends and things like that. But I get them jazzed I like to show people so that they can see what it does, and then I let them touch it. So the nice thing with like Zoom and some of the other tools out there, you can share your screen and let them do whatever they want, and they get so excited about that. I mean, somebody the other day wanted to create job descriptions. I'm like, okay, so give me like what are the top 5 things they do. So they gave me the top 5 things they do, and I put it in Chat GPT, and I was like, craft me a professional, humanized job description. And it came back in like 30 seconds. They're like, no way, man. We would have had to like pay somebody to do this. I'm like, why pay somebody when ChatGPT can do it for you? It's $20 a month. Like, it's a win-win. It doesn't buy me health insurance, but it's a win-win. And so for us, I taught myself ChatGPT because, I do everything for the podcast. I'm not only a co-host, but I'm our business manager, and I do all our social media, show notes, newsletter, the whole 9 yards. And I wanted something that would make my job easier because I like to play. Okay, I have a VR headset, still play with that. I like to tinker around with toys and tools. And, I started looking at different software applications that are out there. So I use AppSumo. Every now and then, AppSumo has really good deals on like lifetime deals for software that we may have already been using and paying for. And so I keep an eye out on that, and Cast Magic. And I'm not sure if you use Cast Magic for your podcast, but it's an amazing tool. They had a deal out just a couple of weeks ago where it's a lifetime deal, and like you feed your audio in and it spits out the transcript, and it's got AI built into it, and game changer for me. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. But let me see what other chat GPT tools can do. And um, I just got into the technology. I just think it's cool. Like, man, where was this when I was like going had trig? Like I could have probably passed it the first time.
Hey, I am proud of you for reaching trig. I did I even pass applied math? Like I don't even remember. I mean, I was always horrible at math, so the fact that you made it to trig, I mean, you're an all-star as far as I'm concerned.
Dude, I got a D in that class, but if I'd had Chat GPT, I would have gotten an A for sure.
You're getting me kind of like excited about Chat GPT because I haven't really thought about it too much. And I know that, I'm guessing, and you can fill in the blanks, but you're doing a lot of things with like the podcast that's probably new to you with like editing and stuff like that. It's a lot of stuff. So I went to school for television productions. So I have a little bit of a background in a lot of that stuff, and I think my ego gets in the way with doing all these production things, and it's fun. But much like you said something really important. It's also important, as much fun as running a podcast, running a business is, you have to make time for play. Because I know I have a PlayStation that I'm like dying to play here and there, and I don't always have the time. So I may have to look at some of these tools and see if they can actually help me. Um,
I- And I'd love to teach you. I love teaching people. I love, seeing a smile on somebody's face when, something that they probably been working on for 2 hours gets created for them in like 2 minutes. ChatGPT is not perfect. You
yeah.
have to check the answers. You have to make sure your prompts are good, but like it's a game changer. And not just a game changer for you and I, but for like kids. I'm telling you, like if you're failing math right now, you're not using ChatGPT. I'm just saying. Because they can dumb it down for you. I was just playing around the other day and I put in a trig problem and like it literally broke it down step by step. Like where was this, back in the day when I was still in school? Like now I'm really aging myself. I graduated from high school in 82, so
Well, Gretchen, they did have the Math Atari game, where they could, you could punch in 2 plus 2. What's the answer? They had the tools for us.
they they had the Atari version, which was like probably not as advanced as like the newer chat GPT models are now, but like you can use it for other things too. You don't even need to use it for business. Like the other day, I took a picture of what was in the refrigerator and I uploaded it into ChatGPT. And I'm like, hey, create a menu out of what I have in the fridge. And it came back with a full menu.
Well, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah, so
that's so amazing we don't know what to say next.
you don't know what to say next. So, like for your people out there that really, I'm telling you, that really want to get out there and learn, go get the $20 OpenAI ChatGPT. Worth it. Okay, it's the best $20 a month you'll spend. Be like, damn, where was this my entire life? Number two, go find something that makes you happy. The world is on fire right now. You need to still find your joy. I find my joy in playing with my VR headset. It's spring here. I got to go outside and see a spring flower. My other message to everybody out there is check in on your extroverted friends. We're very, very, very good at hiding our depression. Not a badge of honor. I should have opened up sooner, but at the time I didn't know how to. So just check in on them and find something that just makes your heart happy, especially if you're going to a job every day that you hate, right? Like I'm sure you can find one thing that makes you happy. If it's getting in your car and driving home after work every day, it's still a good thing. Throw on some music, but like find something that's going to make you really happy. And I know the job market is hard out there. I still have a lot of friends that are looking for jobs that are going the same route that I did. They're opening their own companies. It's not for the faint of heart. Um,
No,
you
no,
get
it's not.
you get a ton of joy out of it. Like
Yes.
I went to go pitch new work the other day and something fell in my lap. Uh, it's a lot of selling. It's a lot of doing things that I'm not super comfortable with, but I'm learning. And I also do a lot of mentoring. I do a lot of business mentoring that I don't charge for.
Well, before we run out of time, which I feel like we did, I had a little bit of a wonky power outage here that held us back a little bit. I don't want to hold you back too much, Gretchen, but one thing that you did talk about that I don't think I've ever talked about on this show that is extremely important is health insurance for entrepreneurs because you made some really good points on just the fact that that's something you really have to consider. Now, thankfully, I still have like a regular job and, I'm covered and et cetera, et cetera. But there might be some people out there who don't have the fortune of having a job and they're just grinding it out as an entrepreneur. And health insurance, not only for your regular health, but not that mental health isn't regular health. It's all regular, I guess. But your physical health and mental health is probably a good way to separate that out a little bit. But good for both. So if you have any other advice on health coverage for entrepreneurs, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so for me, I'm pretty fortunate, right? I live in a small farming community. So up here, most of the doctors go off of a sliding scale. So whatever you can afford to pay. One of the things you can do as an entrepreneur is check those doctors out, right? Most doctors will work with you if you're a cash paying customer. Um, you know, if you get sick, you get sick. You can still go to the doctor. For myself, I actually needed a doctor last month. I called Teledoc. It was $75. $75 I can afford. You just need to remind people that you don't have insurance, and you'll be amazed at sometimes how much cheaper it is if you're paying cash than if you are going through an insurance company. Like I had to get a tooth fixed. I had to get a cavity. If I had had insurance, my out of pocket would have been more than what I paid to get my cavity done. So for me, like it's a win-win. Like don't let the insurance thing scare you off. And the insurance rules are changing every single day. I'm supposed to qualify for Medicare in like 3 years. Don't know if that's going to happen now, but you know, don't let that part scare you away. Just know what your options are, and in most states, you can get like the Affordable Care Act insurance. Um, check that out. For me, it I don't quite make enough money yet to justify that cost. Maybe in a couple of months because I've only been in business for 2 months. But keep your options open. Talk to an insurance broker. They can sometimes help you out. If you live in the state of California, you are lucky. They have really good insurance for people that are entrepreneurs. I know that they are working on that in other states. But, you know, don't make it something, if that's the one thing that's holding you back, don't. Because, you know, if you need to go to the hospital, you have to go to the hospital. The only thing you need to remind them is that you don't have insurance. They can't turn you away. That's part of the Hippocratic oath is that they can't turn you away. So
That is very true. And I appreciate every single second of this episode, everything you had to talk about. I mean, amazing. What a story. You are a real reflection of resilience. And I like to view myself as a, reflection of resilience and certainly not downplaying myself, but I mean, your story is really inspiring. And I mean, before I make this sound like this is the actual end of the episode, I'll give you an opportunity to tell everybody how they can find you, how they can work with you, and anything else you want to add.
perfect. Okay, so there's two ways that you can get three, two ways. So the first, if you want to work with me on my company, the name of my company is Schoser Talent and Wellness Solutions, and uh, web my website is schosersolutions.com. And if you want to learn more about the podcast, which is shit that goes on our heads, remember it's shit with an exclamation point because apparently it's still a bad word. Um, you can go out to our website at goesononourheads.net. We are on every single major platform out there, even minor platforms. And then the other podcast is called the Survivors Podcast, and that's the survivorspodcast.net. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me. My socials are all on there. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Not on TikTok yet. I'm telling you, I tried. It's so not my genre, but like I'm gonna keep working at it. But that's how people can find me. And if you're interested in my services, or if you want to learn more about ChatGPT or anything, please reach out to me. I do offer a free 30-minute consult, and I'd love to talk to you.
Well, I love talking to you, and I'm so glad you took time out of your day to be with me and to talk about all these important topics. And yeah, I don't know what else to say except thank you, and I appreciate your time here. Again, this was Gretchen Schoser, and she is the founder of Schoser Talent and Wellness LLC. And I'm repeating a lot of stuff she literally just said, but she is the podcast co-host of the Survivors podcast and shit that goes on in our heads with the exclamation point representing the I in SHIT. All right. Gretchen, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you gave the audience something and some things to think about. I know, not that I don't think about these kind of things on a regular basis anyway, but your story really touched me and you definitely give me a lot to think about. So thank you for being on Mark My Words.
Thank you for having me. It was truly a joy.
All right, likewise. Hey, I'm Mark Schmidt. This was Mark My Words. I will see you soon. Goodbye for now. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to go on a journey with me into entrepreneurship and life on Mark My Words. If you would like to learn more about me and the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt or connect with me on Instagram at Nimrod79. Video episodes of Mark My Words, as well as other content, can also be found on the Mark My Words YouTube page. Entrepreneurship can be quite the roller coaster ride. It can be a bit isolating and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's meet here next time at the crossroads on another episode of Mark My Words.